Welcome to another episode of Holistic Health Habits. I'm your host, Surani Fernando, and today we're joined by Tim James, the founder of Chemical Free Body. Tim has dedicated his career to promoting holistic health and helping people achieve a vibrant living through chemical-free products and also chemical-free lifestyle choices. Tim, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Surani, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great. So just to start us off, you have a pretty unique and interesting story that's led you to where you are today. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your unique story and what inspired you to create Chemical Free Body?
Absolutely. So I grew up over in northeastern Oregon on a small cattle and hay farm. I did lots of hunting and fishing, and I played baseball at a high level for 30 years. After that, I was basically, I was a financial advisor. I did quite a few different things, but at the time I was age 37, house, mortgage, 3 offices, being a financial advisor, getting ready to take over this guy's practice. We had 18 employees, so it was really busy practice and growing. Pretty excited about that, but my health had went in the tank. I had basically gained 42 pounds. My skin had a lot of issues. I had eczema in my knee. My left knee, both elbows, and different places in my body. I had another skin issue on my shoulder. I started getting acid reflux really bad, heartburn all the time. I was eating Tums and Rolaids 24/7, almost like literally. They were next to my couch, in my car, in my truck, at the I had them everywhere stashed because I just had constant heartburn. And found out a lot of other people do too. And then it got worse. I started bleeding rectally. And then going number 2 was like, pooping was like on a 1 to 10 pain scale, 1 being no pain and 10 shoot me. I was about a 6 or a 7 every time I had to go to have to poop. And so that went on. And then I started, the bleeding and stuff. So that went on for like 2.5 years. And I was recommended Prilosec and, other different stuff, which I'm glad I didn't take it because I just watched my dad watches like Grit TV, which is like this country western old TV. And I think there's like a lawsuit now because Prilosec causes cancer. So that was prescribed to me. So I'm really glad that I didn't take that because it could have led to even worse. So my health was a mess. Then top it all off, low energy, mental fog, all that stuff. And then on a vacation with my wife in Peru, and her dad was a medical doctor. He went with us. It was they were from Lima. I met her down there on a business trip. I used to import stone flooring countertops long before the financial advising deal. Anyway, it was her dad's first vacation in his life. Like he was a medical doctor that moved, ran a large hospital there in Lima, Peru, and he was such a nice guy. He didn't fire any of his patients, so he was like a full-time practicing doctor and running a new clinic. And he was kind of uppity up with the dignitaries, taking care of them and speaking about medical stuff. So he's a really busy guy. First vacation ever. And we're out like deep sea fishing for fun, and I'm sick. I'm not feeling good. And him and the captain thought I had motion sickness. I said, look, guys, I've been on the Oregon coast. I've fished in Hawaii all the time. I don't get motion sickness. It's not that. They didn't believe me, though. We got back, and he's like, God, you're not getting better. And he's like, oh, my God. He started testing me. He's like, we got to get you to the hospital. You need surgery. And like now. So we were like, oh, shit. So we ran down to the jumped in a car, and I'm bent over at a 90-degree angle. I can't even walk upright. I'm in so much pain. We go down to the airport. We just missed the plane flight by 20 minutes, and there's only like one every day. And he's like, we can't wait. You'll die. So he rented a van and drove me down this bumpy road to the nearest city with the hospital called Peoria, and he had him dope me up, and he got his operation surgery room ready back in Lima for me, and they basically life flighted me because the reason why I didn't get the surgery at that hospital, 2 reasons. Number one, he wanted to get it done with his place, because it was state of the art. But this place was not state of the art. Like there was like 250 to 1,000 bugs flying around in my head above the examination room. It was a very dirty. The equipment looked like it was from the 50s and 60s and worn. And I was like, this ain't good.
Okay, but
so he had him dope me up and put me on a commercial airline. And he sat right next to me and watched me the whole time. So I was basically being life flighted and nobody knew about it, like on a commercial airline. So I got out of that deal, and then they put me in a taxi and it took me down to the hospital. I went right into surgery, right out of the taxi, onto a gurney, into surgery. He had it all dialed in. And so I was very thankful for the medical community So, because there is a time and place for crisis care, which is what the whole system was born out of. But it was the other stuff they've completely failed for the chronic diseases and issues like I had with my gut. And so I'm very happy. I learned a couple things though. Number one, I don't ever want to get surgery again. That was scary. I ruined that whole vacation for my friend. The second lesson was that my poor health doesn't affect just me.
Right.
That was it, because it ruined the vacation for my wife and her dad. And we planned that out for over a year, and it was like thousands of dollars. So, and poor guy, like, never take a vacation, and then he ends up back in the hospital taking care of me. So, so our health does affect other people, and I've had to do taking care of my mom when she fell, and my dad, and then my mom had cancer, and I did all that hospice care. And man, it's tough. That's tough on you. And I do blood testing and stuff, and I've had some numbers dropping and stuff because of stress for that year and a half of taking care of my mom. So, and I'm very aware of all this stuff, and I do a lot of things, but things drop off and you get tired, So that was the first part of my story. So I'm still a mess. And then my friend Charles got diagnosed with cancer, and they didn't really have a lot for him at Oregon State Health University or in Oregon here for his type of cancer, thank God. And so he found a place in Florida called Hippocrates Wellness Center, and it's kind of a natural detox thing. And they do a lot of plants and living foods and sprouts and that kind of stuff. And I didn't really know much about it at all, except my friend asked me to go with him. I said, yeah, whatever you need. I had no idea what I was getting into. Like, I would have never went there ever. Like, the way I live my life, and when I thought it was woo-woo BS. And we flew down there, and the detoxing began. They taught us about cleaning up the digestive tract. And, the average person's got like 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material in the colon. Just everybody just walking around on average. Some people have more and some less. And I started feeling better. Now, in the beginning, I felt kind of worse as I was going through these little detox symptoms. I had night sweats. I was irritable. I had heavy metals taste coming out of my mouth as they were exiting my body through my tongue. It was really weird. There's some other things, but first week I lost 11 pounds, and I'll tell you why, because the first class was called Internal Awareness. This place had about 40 hours of lectures a week. It's kind of like a re-education camp on how you're supposed to be part of nature, and you kind of need to get back there, and that's where all the problems are coming from.
Yeah.
And just basic stuff, like I didn't know that, the organic stamps and the labels and all that stuff, which is now, that's all jeopardized now too. But anyway, back then it wasn't. But so the first class was called Internal Awareness, and this Dr. Scott Josephson came out, and he turned 50 that day, and he looked maybe 40. So he looked fantastic for his age. I was like, wow, I can't believe that guy's 50. And he explained to tell us that, people got 6 to 12 pounds of garbage in their gut. You got to get that stuff out of there. It's sitting in the colon. It's causing disease. And it just needs to be cleaned out. And so they were pushing colonics or colon hydrotherapy. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yes, I do. I haven't had it, but I have a friend who swears by this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know what it was. For the listeners that aren't aware, you're basically colonics, or AKA colon hydrotherapy, colon water therapy. You basically set on a tube rectally, and water gently goes in and out of your colon for an hour, and it cleans up all that nasty funk and gunk and junk that's accumulated from stress and processed foods and denatured foods and all this stuff, right? And chemicals. And so I'm like, I ain't doing it. There ain't no way. When that doctor brought that up, I elbowed Charles and said, dude, I came here to help you, but I ain't doing that deal.
Right.
No way. But this guy was smart, because he knew there was going to be a bunch of people in there like me that had egos, that I was also scared. I mean, let's be honest. I was scared. I didn't like somebody touching me down there. I had this weird thing about it, and I was like, that's just, nobody's ever hung around down there and done anything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a little weird. But he was smart. So what he did was he put up on the screen virtual colonoscopies of 4 people, where they actually went inside the colon, looked inside the colon with camera to see what's in there. And I'm like, oh boy. Now in my mind, I'm thinking, if I'm going to go in somebody's colon, I don't know a whole about, back then I didn't know a whole lot about anatomy, but I'm like, from what I remembered, in biology, there's going to be some brown stuff in there. And I'm probably going to see some pink-colored intestinal lining things. That's what I figured I'd see. Oh, they go in the first person as a 24-year-old female with Hashimoto's, and she also had Candida albicans, which is like this yeast overgrowth. No, she had, it was a bad yeast deal. Inside of her colon, it was like white and yellow. So overgrown with yeast. It's thrush. It was called thrush. That's what she
Right.
had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be the same thing. I don't know if that's the same.
Which I usually think it's not in the colon, is in the other place, but
Well, she
yeah,
probably had it everywhere, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
then they went to the next person that was like a 65-year-old male with colon cancer and parasites. And they go in his colon and it's black as midnight, like tar, and there's like these white worms crawling around. And then everybody in the room, you could see their skin crawl like, oh God. And that's the one I was like, what? You know, I could see the sludge and stuff in there, but it was those worms that freaked me out. And he turns around, he said, hey, look, he goes, these parasites are not a third world affair, not even close. And he goes, when your immune system's down, it's more likely that you're going to get this kind of stuff. And Americans have the lowest immune systems anywhere, right? You can get them from a doorknob. You can get them from dogs and cats. And if you have pets, you have them. And almost everybody has them. And he goes, 50% of you are going to see these parasites exiting your stool over the next 3 weeks on this program. And he goes, but besides the tapeworms and the hookworms and the pinworms that you'll see in your stool as they exit, there's other smaller ones and amoebas, and they're all eating your food, drinking what you drink, urinating and defecating in you, creating more acid, and then they're having sex and laying thousands of eggs. And now I'm getting colon hydrotherapy. That's all I could think of is like, I jumped up in the middle of the class, went over to the sign-up sheet, and he's like, oh, Tim, we're going to do that later. I'm like, no, I'm signing up right now. I was going to be numero uno. So anyway, then they went on. There was like a 45-year-old a female with breast cancer inside of her colon, black like midnight, a little brown stuff. And then they showed the healthy person that had been on this lifestyle they taught. And yeah, you could see a little brown stuff in there, but lots of pink colon like you thought it would look like, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, that's when the light bulb went off, and I'm like, oh my God, this is an inside job. It's like the analogy for me was like, this is just like a tractor or a car, like an engine. Like the digestive tract is the driving engine of the human body, beyond, energy and spirit and all that other stuff. But I mean, for the physical part. And I was like, if it's all gummed up, well, yeah, it's not going to run right. You don't just put better fuel in. You got to take the engine in, flush out the transmission fluid, clean up the engine. Then you put good fuel in and maintenance it, new fuel filter, new spark plug. And so that's what we got busy doing. They kind of gave us the beginnings of an owner's manual, how to take care of ourselves. And I got to tell you, like, I was feeling so crappy after those first few days because of the detox symptoms. They called it surgery without a knife. And I think in medical world, it's called Hertz reaction. And so I guess there's a lot of professionals listening on here. So anyway, so they said day 3 or 4 or 5, you're going to wake up and feel great. And it was day 4 for me. I woke up and I felt like I was reborn. Like we went, did our little routine. We did the sauna and worked out and we drank our lemon water, lime water, did the wheatgrass shot, the green juice, hot, cold plunges, mineral soak, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And this time we're walking back and I'm like, Charles, do you feel as good as I do? He's like, yeah, dude, because I feel amazing. And I said, I feel like I literally have energy in my arms. Like my arms are tingling, like go do something. Like, and my mental clarity is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And I'm like, I was like, I feel we've discovered the fountain of youth. Like this is what everybody's really looking for. It wasn't what I wanted as far as diet and lifestyle and that kind of stuff. I never heard any of these things, but it worked. And so I couldn't deny it. I had first person experience and I'm just like, okay, well, dude, you're going to heal. I know it. And so you're going to beat this cancer. And so, I supported him and we come back and we changed our lifestyles and we cleaned up what we ate and we detoxed. And I got really passionate about it and started teaching classes at my house and had 5,000 people there, detox nutrition classes, and eventually started Chemical Free Body. But the best part of the story was in 2.5 years, my friend had healed himself of this cancer naturally. He had no chemo, no surgery, no radiation.
What cancer did he have again?
He had chronic lymphocytic leukemia.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah, that's not an easy one to clean yourself from.
Yeah, and and it could take your life quickly. It could take a little bit. It could take a long time. It just depends. And but when we went to the support groups, it was like I called it the revolving door of death because everybody in there was kind of white and pasty, and all they really talked about was like how bad I got it and what medications I'm on. Well, I'm on 7 medications. Well, I'm on 12. And it's like even Charles was like, this is before we even got into our spiritual practice. We knew that it was like a low vibratory place. It wasn't like. It was a weird support group. I'll just put it to you that way. It was almost like there was people some of them were identifying with the disease, and that's where they got their identity. It was just weird. I don't know how to explain it. Not say anybody who has got CLL or any cancers do that, but this one group, I don't know, it was weird. And then we kind of knew because the doctor who was his doctor, he was doing a presentation like 75 people with leukemia, and like he was drinking a Diet Pepsi or something like that. It's like it was Diet Coke or something. I'm like, this guy doesn't know anything. And even when Charles was getting better, he completely just ignored it. And he's like, well, you're going to get sick. Your immune system's going to drop. So I'm going to get you a flu shot. And I was like, like and Charles told me, shut up, don't talk when you go to these meetings. And I couldn't help it. I'm like, dude, he told you like 5 times he's not going to get the flu shot. His immune system is going up. His numbers are dropping. His white blood cell count's coming down. He's healing. We're running a marathon, okay? And he just looked at me, then looked away and ignored me. He's like, look, he wrote the script. He said, go get, just completely ignore me. Go get the flu shot. Yeah. He never went and got it. But in 2012, October, we ran the Portland Marathon together, and I ran right beside him. And about 6 months later, he was cancer-free. And so, then after that, Charles and I's story started spreading, and I lost all that. I lost like 42 pounds in like 60 days. He dropped like 60. His son-in-law, Adam, dropped like 80. We looked like new people in like 60 days. It was unreal. Yeah. And I just started telling everybody about it, and people started coming to my home. And between now and then, I've personally coached 700 people through what I've learned. Over 300 of them had cancer. And just because our story, a lot of people with cancer gravitated towards me. And then I eventually met Dr. Scott Treadway, and then we developed a really clean detox and nutrition line of products that are very well sourced, over 21 years of his sourcing, and they're based on 10,000 years of biological engineering system science. So it's just very deep, concentrated type nature stuff that, and we just don't compromise, and we don't put other harmful ingredients in them like magnesium stearate or silicon dioxide, dicalcium phosphate. So as you can see, my shirt says ingredients matter.
It does.
Well, so do the other ingredients in these products, whether it's a food, a beverage, or a supplement. So the supplement should just be concentrated food. Mm-hmm. So I don't tell people I have a supplement company. I have a food. I have a food company. We just deliver concentrated food to you, and some of them detox you, and some of them boost your, give you nutrition.
Yeah. And when did that all start? What year was that? Yeah. What was the timeline for those events?
Yeah, January of 2011 is when we were January 1st, 2011. We landed in West Palm Beach, Florida. Went there to the institute, and then 2013 I actually went back to go just to spend some time with myself. I'd never done that before. Then my wife came in for the first week, which I was kind of bummed actually, because I'm like, I was happy that she could go through the process and experience it, but I was like, dang it, I just wanted some time to myself. So that last week by myself, it was awesome, because it was the first time, I can't even tell you, since maybe I was a kid or something, like I was totally focused just on myself and my healing. It wasn't me running around trying to help everybody else anymore, which, come to find out, a lot of people that are sick, that's where they're at. They're trying to take care of, especially moms and dads too, but they just run themselves ragged until a wheel falls off. Then they go into a broken system, to a crisis care system that has no idea what's going on with the soil and gut microbiome for the most part, and stress and how to deal with it, and they end up getting sicker, and they get put on chemicals. And I can guarantee you, nobody here has a chemical deficiency, right? As far as man-made chemicals goes, right? Yes, everything can be considered a chemical, but like plant chemicals or phytochemicals are natural in nature. They're different, right?
Yeah. And, you started the company. When did you actually start the company? You said it was with Dr. Treadway?
Yeah, so I brought him on later. So June of 2015, I'm sitting at my office upstairs in my home doing some stuff. And right before this, that time, in the 2015, my little brother had just broke his neck and died in a mountain biking accident. And he had 2 little girls and a bun in the oven. So wow. So that was really hard on my mom, and I mean, to this day, I mean, it's horrible. He was the nicest guy in the world. Like we had plans. We were going to farm together. It was kind of a cool story because we had same mom, different dads. We didn't even know each other until I was 21 and he was 15, and we met. We were just we were so happy that we had a brother, And I also had a sister, and I was very happy about that. And him and I just had a really close bond. He ended up farming over in Woodburn area in Oregon. I'm over here. He actually lived in John Day for a while, which was not too far from us. I was actually over there for like little league tournaments and stuff, and I didn't even know he was there. So we were in close proximity without knowing. We became very close. We were going to buy a farm in Hawaii and grow avocados and do cool stuff and have a healing retreat. And but he died, and so I didn't have the spiritual practice I have now. So I didn't know how to deal with that. So I remember I just thought about him, and sometimes I get these flashes, and I screamed out, "Troy, what do you want me to do?" And I was so mad because he was gone, and I literally heard him say, "Do what you love and do it now." And I picked up the phone and I called my mentor that I'm taking over this multi-million-dollar financial services business. And I said, "Jeff, I'm out." And he's like, "Out? What are you talking about? Out of what?" I said, "I'm getting out of financial services." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he's got a lot of time and money invested in me, and I've got probably 35 grand into my whole thing. And I said, "I'm out." I said, "I can't do this anymore." I said, "Troy's dead. He went out doing what he's loved. I want to tell people about green juice and sprouts and detoxing because it's changed my life. I feel great about it, and I have to do it." I said, "I don't want to spend one more second, doing this other stuff, even though I enjoy doing it. I help tax planning and all this other stuff and helping people keep their money safe like you do. But I'm like, it's not me anymore. This is where I need to go." And so I broke free financially, and it was tough. I struggled for 5.5 years. I lived off my savings, and then October of 2015, a few months later, I incorporated.
Okay. Okay. And everything was sort of self-taught. So you went from this like in a background in finance to then going into sort of more sciencey, nutrition-y, learning about chemicals and chemical reactions and all
Yeah.
those sorts of things.
Yeah,
How was that for you?
a lot of homework, a lot of studying people that I looked like I trust. Because what ended up happening is after what I learned, what was in the food and the water and the drinks and all this stuff, I became very distrusting to most people. And I became like Sherlock Holmes of chemicals and
Yeah.
toxins and people BSing people about certain things of food. And here's the other thing too, is like, there is no one size fits all. Every single human being is different. We all have a different vibratory frequency, a special signature. There are some basic things though that are going to apply to all of us, like water, right? We should all have great water. And most people don't even know what that is. And most people don't even realize how polluted all the water on the earth is and how important it is to get that cleaned up and restructured. So that's one component. And, chewing your food really, 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 really well, that's actually a really big thing. That's the first domino in digestion. If you don't flip that one over, then you're going to have fermentation and gut rot. I walk people through these things, but these are just some basic things that I've learned. We actually have a manual called our Core 4 Secrets, and it discusses the 4 basic things that 95% of plus people aren't doing, and they're very easy to do and very simple. And 3 of them are completely free.
Okay.
Completely free. I've had people listen to me, go get the manual, do it, and solve problems they've had for a long time. That was the beginning of it, just from those 4 things, and then go on to become a health coach and have thousands of clients and help them. So We've had a lot of people write in. We've had nurses that have healed themselves of cancer. I didn't do it. They did it themselves. I'm just showing people what worked for me, what's worked for my clients, what's worked for my friends, and what I've learned from these other cool people that have healed themselves. And a lot of them are naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, Chinese herbal medicine, Ayurvedic traditional medicine doctors, massage therapists, Reiki mat. I mean, you name it. Like I've opened my mind to all this stuff now. And what I've come to find out is most of this other stuff is pretty good. And there's still BSers in all industries, but you got to learn about that. So I guess I've become like a health advisor.
Yeah.
So I help people put their teams together, and I do coaching myself, and I have a coaching practice, and that's where we're at. We have great products.
Okay, great. And so chemical-free body, it's a combination of, you said, not supplements, but food products. And then you've got a coaching business as well. Tell us a little bit more about the food, the products element of that, because I think, from my perspective, when we talk about supplements and we don't get enough from our food, and also the way that our food is grown, has a lot of chemicals in it to begin with. So it's quite hard to, sift through all of that. Where do your products differentiate from what's available?
Well, I went out and built what I knew was right. And so for me, I know that my body and your body is from nature. And so the closer I can get back to that, the reality is if we had awesome soil and there wasn't a bunch of chemicals and we're all eating fresh food locally, we wouldn't need a chemical-free body, food line or chemical or supplement line, whatever you want to call it, because we wouldn't need it. We'd have everything we need. But people that live in condos are busy and they have extra stress. And with all the chemicals and the EMFs and the stress today and the toxins, supplements basically, like, most of us are just sitting on the edge of a cliff waiting to fall. I mean, that's where we're at. I was on the cliff and bleeding, wrecked, all this stuff. I'm ready to fall. I had to have a surgery. Okay, so I fell down about 10 feet and landed. I didn't fall down the 400-foot ravine yet and die, but I was falling down the cliff. Supplements grabbed me and pulled me back and gave me time to start healing myself, right? To replace the missing nutrition and stuff like that. So what differentiates what I put together is that I don't compromise ingredients at all, and I look at the whole formula. There's a 92% of the supplements on the market are synthetic chemicals, 100%.
Yeah.
92%. So you have an 8% chance that you're going to even find a whole food or food-based herbal form. 92%. I actually took a course from a guy. He sold $20 million of supplements in 8 years from his laptop. He was this big guru, and I talked to him, and I said, this thing that you're selling, I said, I went through all these formulas that we could white label for us and sell, and he's like, I said, dude, they're all synthetic chemicals. He actually didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
He was just a marketer. He
Yeah.
didn't even know. He didn't even know. And he goes, "Why? I should probably buy your supplements, and yours sounds pretty good. I should take yours." I'm like, "Yeah, you should." So just weird stuff like that. And then I took another course to try to get my products out because I don't know how to do this. I'm a financial advisor, right?
Yeah.
And this other guy, he said, "Well, you need your margins to be 6 to 1 to or 8 times 6 times markup or 8 times markup to be able to afford the advertising." And I looked at mine, and I'm like, mine are like 2.5 to 3.5 markup. And so I don't have any profit margin there because the raw materials cost so much. And I'm not buying in big volumes yet, And so everything was stacked against me from the very beginning, but I didn't care. I wasn't trying. I built these products for myself personally and then for my private coaching students. And then through word of mouth, it's kind of just, it was self-marketed itself. We grew like 20, 30% a year for years. This is our 9th year. And it just keeps growing. And we're just starting to do a little of this Facebook stuff. I don't really like it, but it's working. But, so what separates the products? Well, number one, all the raw materials are air-dried or sun-dried under 110 degrees. That makes sure that the life force, the electron activity that was captured from the sun, from those biophotons, is still intact. With that said, we're still processing these raw materials, so some of it's going to get lost. That's why we concentrate things. Like in our Green 85 juice formula, this is as close to a fresh pressed juice you're going to get out of a can. I'll put it up against any product on the market. And I've got tons of doctors and people and nurses and regular people and athletes and professional athletes that I've coached that will stand up for it. But it doesn't really matter what they say. You have to have first-person experience. You have to experience it for yourself, right? But it's not just wheatgrass blades that were ground up. That's the first ingredient. There's like 22 in there. It's wheatgrass juice. And then we concentrate it 4 to 1, 6 to 1, 8 to 1, 10 to 1, 20 to 1. Whatever the highest concentrations that are available at the time, that's what we put into to make up for the processing, you see? Mm-hmm. So I'm aware of all these things. So electron activity, it's all based on 10,000 years of biological engineering system science. That's Ayurvedic traditional medicine. Through trial and error over 10,000 years, they just know what works in the body. It's actually, and I don't know if you know Dr. Shiva Ayyadurai, but he's the one that bridged the gap between, traditional Eastern medicine and Western medicine and basically engineering principles, right? So for the engineers out there, you'll appreciate this. So in a standard system, you have like input, output, transport, conversion, and storage. Okay, that's a standard system. Things go in, certain things happen, and there's an output, right? Well, in Ayurvedic traditional medicine, it's karma fall. So you have your action and then the fruits of the action. And in the middle, you've got vata, pitta, kapha. Vata, pitta, kapha is transport, conversion, and storage. These are engineering principles. Mm-hmm. So Ayurvedic traditional medicine is steeped in biological engineering system science. It's quite profound. Yeah. And so Dr. Treadway left Cornell University to be a medical doctor, went to be a naturopath, left that, and then he went over and studied traditional medicine under some guru dude over there, a couple of them. And then he came back, and he also became a master herbalist, not only in just the Indian herbology, but Chinese herbology and Western. And then spent 21 years getting his sourcing right. And then, 38 years later, I meet him, 37 years later. And I'd worked with him for the last, 5-6 years. Well, actually, I'd worked with him for about 7 years, and then 7.5 years. And then when they had that storm down in Texas, he was in his 70s. The guy did yoga every day, meditated 2 hours. He's in phenomenal shape. He slipped and fell, messed his back up pretty bad, and then he died. Surgery complications from the back surgery. Very unfortunate to lose that man because he was he was like an unsung hero that nobody knew about. He wrote a lot of books for these really fancy people out there on the TV, and he's a ghostwriter. He wrote all their books, and just real smart guy. And he had a clinical practice for 10 years too, seeing patients, but he went back to formulations because he thought it could help the world better. And he got that from his downloads, I believe, in his meditation. So anyway, that's the guy. And I'm just out promoting his stuff and trying to take his legacy out there and help people.
Okay. And what would be like one of your most popular products that, you find it difficult to keep in stock?
Well, that would be the one, our Green 85 juice formula, right? Because that one is like a super multivitamin. It has probiotics and enzymes in it. It's got D3 in it. We added to it. I did that for the COVID thing because I know people were being forced in their homes and that kind of stuff and not getting outside and getting sunshine. And somebody like yourself that has darker skin, that is a death sentence. Like you already need more sun than a white guy like me.
Yeah.
Like a lot more and vitamin D3 is basically, vitamin D it's a hormone. It's not even a vitamin. So it's responsible for about 5% of the processes in the human body. And if you're not getting enough of it, it's a problem. It's also like a Navy sharpshooter or a Marine sharpshooter in your body, taking out pathogens. It's part of the first line of defense. So it's really important. So we threw that in there. I didn't raise the prices back then. Just threw it in, because I knew people needed it, especially people of darker colored skin. Above the 45th parallel for sure. So, our mission is just, we want to help people. And I've learned so many things that I've curated over the last 13 years for my own health. I'm 51 years old now. Tomorrow I'll go trail running up in the woods with my son. And then this weekend we'll probably do 7 or 9 miles in this loop deal through the mountains. And we'll be doing push-ups the whole time, laughing. My son's 21. He can't even keep up with me, like literally. But he's getting smarter. Now, on the rock climbing wall or doing certain activities, he's stronger than I am, but pretty good for a guy I'm 30 years older than this kid, right? Yeah. And he's in great shape, but I can outdo him on some stuff. So that's kind of fun. All the dads listening will know what I'm talking about. That's ego talk.
And this is all you wouldn't.
It's all ego.
You wouldn't have been able to say that, before that journey, like when you said that you were a lot heavier and,
Oh, yeah. And women comment on my skin all the time, like, oh, my God, your skin's amazing. And it's like, nobody ever told me that in my 20s. Right. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't listening, but I would have probably thought that was weird back then. But I've been getting comments for the last, 13 years about my skin, especially for women.
Did you have skin issues before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Eczema. My skin was cracking and bleeding and very dry, and it was gross. And I was to the point where I wouldn't even take my shirt off going outside, not because I was fat, because pretty much everybody else is nowadays. But it was because my skin looked like a salamander.
Okay. Wow. That's an image.
Yeah. It was not fun. It was scary, and I was in fear. And so I had, believe me, if a redneck Eastern Oregon guy can see, I remember, I think back when I talk to every time I do a podcast, I remember back at how I felt. Man, I was in fear. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't feel good, and I was in denial, and I had my head in the sand like an ostrich. I'm like, oh, I hope, you go to the bathroom, painful, followed by blood, and then you're like, well, I hope that goes away, and you go back to your life. But in the back of my mind, I knew that it was going to come to a head someday, but I was ignoring it. I was in denial.
Right. And so where can people find your products? Like, you're based in the U.S. Is it just U.S.? Do you just ship to the U.S.? I'm based in Spain.
we ship worldwide. The problem is with the people running all the governments and doing all that stuff, they've customs and tariffs and all this other stuff. These big corporations are able to ship their stuff around for nothing, but the small, family type mid-sized businesses, it's real tough because like I got a client in Ireland, and he loves the stuff, shared it with his family, they loved it, and it just kept spreading. And now he's like a local CSA, so every quarter they place very large orders over there, and then they all split them up. So if shipping's like $30 or something, the customs fees and all that could be double, so it does suck. But the reality is I guarantee you one thing: if you do take our products, you're getting pure concentrated nature and nothing else. And so you don't even need as much of it as you would, or I wouldn't even want to put some of this other stuff, the synthetics, in my body at all. But it just works, and maybe you can figure something out and create your own CSA for other places. But you'll know, just put your address in, and the system will tell you whether it ships or not. But we always tell people for the international orders, just be prepared, because there could be some extra custom fees and stuff like that. And don't go to us and be like, oh, it's too much.
Right. Yeah.
Send it back. So, we're a small company. We already sent it out. We will take it back. we actually offer a double your money back guarantee. I don't know anybody else that does that. Like, because I just want people to try it because I know it's going to work for 95% of you up the middle because it's just based on Dr. Treadway's stuff that he did. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I definitely that is a problem when you're buying from smaller companies, which that's happened to me where, you pay the shipping and everything and it estimates an extra cost, but then they won't release it unless you pay kind of double the price of what you actually paid for.
Yeah.
So that can be a problem.
Yeah.
But
the cool thing is we won't poison you like a lot of these other places.
Right.
You won't be paying for poison, guaranteed.
Yeah, and I think that is, a very underrated comment because, a lot of people are taking supplements. As you said, I have darker skin, so I'm quite deficient in vitamin D, especially during the pandemic. It was just like very dangerously deficient. I'm better now. I'm like in the normal range, but lower. But, the doctor sort of saying, yeah, I recommend you take a supplement. And, I just went to, at the time I was living in the US, I was living in New York. So Walgreens, vitamin D.
Oh, yeah.
And so I
don't really, I mean, statistically, the chance, it's like a needle in a haystack finding anything in there that's fit for human consumption.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's just where we're at.
Yeah, I've realized, over the last years that, you look at a product and you look at a product label and it will just tell you that, like it, and there's no way to sort of see.
Well, let me give your listeners just a little quickie, okay? So I have a whole ebook on this stuff called I think it's supplements. What do we call it? It's like the truth about supplements or carbon-based supplements. I can't remember. We have an ebook. I should remember the titles of these things. I wrote the darn thing. But when people join us or they purchase from us, you'll end up getting that ebook. So here's a snippet. When you're looking at, let's say, a multivitamin, which is a lot of people do multivitamins, right?
Yeah.
It's very simple, okay? Now, my thing is that let's say your mom makes brownies and she has the best brownie recipe ever. And she's won the county fair and now she's going to nationals or state. She won the state fair best brownies. Mm-hmm. She's home. She's making her brownies. You come home. You're 16 years old. You got your friend with you. And you're like, hey, Mom. Oh, my God, the brownies. Like, hey, we're going to go to this movie and it's amazing and everybody's watching it. And what's your mom going to tell you? Well, what's it rated? Because you're 16. Well, I knew you're going to say that it's rated R 18 or whatever, rated R, 18 and older. And her mom's like, never going to let her go. She knows it. And she's like, I'll tell you what, you and your friend can go, but you have to eat one of my brownies. They look at each other like, what do you think? Oh, okay, sure. They grab the brownie. She's like, but wait a minute. Just want to let you know, before you eat that brownie, this recipe is a little bit different than the one that won the state fair. And now it's the exact same recipe. I haven't changed anything except for one ingredient. I added just a tiny bit. You won't even taste it. Just a little bit, not much, of cat poop. And the girls are like, oh, my God, this is gross. And they throw the brownies down. They're like, we're not eating that. And the mom said, that's exactly why you're not going to go watch that movie. Because I forgot to tell the other part where the kids said that there was only one cuss word and brief nudity. Like this guy walks by and you see a butt cheek, right?
Yeah.
She goes, but those two things that happen in that movie have tainted the entire movie for a 16-year-old and you don't need to see it. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I feel about supplements. That's how I feel about food and anything anybody puts in their mouth, they drink it, whatever. If you have something in there that is any part detrimental to the human body, I look at that as a form of rape because you're getting penetrated with something that you do not want in there unknowingly. And the way so ingredients do matter. So it's not just, okay, that makes that point. So let's go back to the label. Let's say we have a great multivitamin. You see on the advertising has reishi mushrooms and enzymes and lactobacillus reuteri and lactobacillus acidophilus. It's got some good probiotics in there and some of the buzzwords, ashwagandha and astragalus, some adaptogens. So you're like, oh, I heard about adaptogens. That's good. I want to do good. And it's got a little bit of that stuff in there. If you don't really know the quality of it, where it was sourced and how it was processed, that's one thing, which nobody does. But look for vitamin C. Behind it, in parentheses, if it says ascorbic acid, you are now consuming a chemical. It's a chemical. It's made in a laboratory. It's not. So if I was to make a multivitamin like that, which we already have Green 85, which is a super multivitamin, I would put vitamin C in parentheses behind my label. It would say from the Arceola cherry, or from the Amla berry, or from rose hips, or from the camu berry. It would say exactly the whole food source that it came from. Right there, if it says ascorbic acid in that multivitamin, the whole thing, in my opinion, tainted. Now,
Okay.
let's say it was camu berry, they did rose hips, and they did, ashwagandha and astragalus and, and milk thistle, and they did a bunch of cool things. But the other ingredients are still ingredients. Sometimes these other ingredients are typically for flavorings, or they're for what are called excipients, binders, fillers, and flow agents, which have nothing to do with your health. It's all about production, filling the capsules. That's what flow agents are for, to take the raw materials so they'll flow through the encapsulation machine so they won't cake up for speed of production. It's a money-making saver for them. Well, guess what? Some of those are. Magnesium stearate blocks absorption of nutrients. It could come from, say, bovine, come from diseased cowhides that were fed genetically modified corn and soy. But it might say vegetable source. Once again, could be from corn and soy. 92% of those are genetically modified, right? And so why would we do that? Silicon dioxide, a level 3 toxin on the EPA's toxin list, is used as a flow agent in most supplements. Guys, go home and check your labels. Dicalcium phosphate. So when I found this stuff out and I saw the umbilical cord studies that go back to 2005, all you got to do is after this podcast, type in umbilical cord chemical. Umbilical cord chemical, those 3 words, you'll see all the studies that I saw. You can read through them. Every single time they test the umbilical cord blood of a baby and a young mother, they look for 400 chemicals. They'll find 71% of what they're looking for. 250 and 180 cause cancer in humans, and 212 cause developmental and brain disorders. They're already in your children before they're born, every single one of them. And when I read these studies, I was like, oh my God. Because then the older you are, the more time you've had to bioaccumulate these toxins in your muscle and your fat tissue, right? And remember, they're only testing the blood serum. The chemicals are actually 500 to 1,000 times more concentrated in your fat and your muscle tissue and your connective tissue. It's off the charts. We are dying of chemical toxicity. And I sat back and I'm like, and like I said, the older you are, the more time you've had to bioaccumulate these toxins.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I'm like, oh my God, I have to tell people about this. Like, this is a major thing. We've got to bring a cellular awareness to these microscopic no-see-em invaders that are killing us. And if we can get them out, first off, stop putting them in, learn where they're coming in, stop putting them in, get them out through detoxification, chelation, flood the body with nutrition, and then help people respond differently to their stresses, people can start to heal. You just create the right environment. The immune system knows what to do, just like when you get cut. How does your skin heal? It knows you have an immune system.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is definitely, even after speaking with a lot of other, experts in this field, just the amount that I've been able to learn about, being cognizant of these supplements, you're taking them with the purpose of bettering your health. But at the end of the day, they could be actually doing the complete opposite if you're just, putting a bunch of different synthetic chemicals that are harming, nutrient absorption, all of that stuff. It feels like it's the wild, wild west.
Ronnie, what's really tough is that when somebody takes a product and they start feeling amazing, like, but I take it and I feel great. Okay, well, just know that if you need to know what's in the product, because you might feel great now, but what's it going to do long term taking silicon dioxide every day or dicalcium phosphate? And if it keeps stacking up, right?
Yeah.
And so that's usually the tough one when somebody's on it. But when I do supplement reviews, or one of my coaches does a supplement review, 95 to 98% of the supplements in those cupboards, like mine were, they're tainted. They've been compromised.
Right.
So it's just, people can do whatever they want. That's the beautiful thing. We're supposed to have free choice.
Right.
And if somebody wants to choose to ingest chemicals, that's a valid choice. You can do that. I just choose not to do that because I had poor health, and I don't ever want to go back to the operation room unless it's a emergency and they're there, and I'm going to be very thankful for those doctors to patch me up again, just like I was when they did it, because it is a very valuable, necessary service. But I don't have anything to do with it. I haven't been to the doctor since I started this journey. I don't go to the doctor. I just did got my labs done, and his wife was involved in it too, and he's done thousands of labs. And she's like, how old is this guy anyway? He's like, I don't know, I think he might be like 38. She's like, wow, his labs look really good. I'm 51. And like the bacteria accounts that are normally in people's guts, the bad ones, the gram negative, I have like none. Like the cleanest that he's ever seen.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it's important for listeners to, even just this conversation, sometimes it can feel a little bit overwhelming with like all the things that you have to be looking out for, and it can just be like too much to even just get started. Everyone just wants to give up because they're like, there's something in everything, there's a chemical in everything, and I don't know how to be clean. But I think, listening to people like yourself and buying from companies like smaller companies that take pride in not just the ingredients but the process, and that's very much a personal thing. It's not just a money making big business. I think that speaks a lot. Speaks
Yeah,
1,000 words.
the proof's also in the pudding. We appreciate people because we believe that today the one vote that still does count is when you vote with your dollars. If you can learn where you're getting poisoned, stop giving stop paying for it, literally paying for poison.
Yeah.
4,300 people a day in the United States die of processed foods. Nobody's even talking about this. They want to talk about somebody's ear bleeding, right? Now, maybe they got shot or not. I don't know. But the reality is that same day, 4,300 Americans died from processed foods that they walked in and paid for wantingly, unknowingly.
Yeah.
Right. And so there has to be some awareness around this. So if we can give people the education and say, instead of buying this, you buy this.
Right.
Now, not only are you supporting your health, but you're supporting a small company like mine that actually cares so we can grow and help more people.
Right. Yeah.
And that's how we change. That's how you change the world. You change yourself. Stop buying stuff that's killing you and start buying things that support you.
Yeah.
It's actually really not that hard. And the one difference thing that I would say that we do is I have free coaching for everybody. I have a podcast out there, my podcast, Tim James Unleashed, free education. I do live Q&As on Facebook, My Chemical Free Body, every Wednesday at 5 o'clock to 5:30. I'll do it today. I have a paid membership called an Inner Circle, or more Q&As, guided meditations, breakout rooms. We're constantly educating people, and I want to educate everybody for free. And with the platforms out there today, I can do that.
Yeah.
So for somebody that wants to come in, get some products, start learning, and get free education from, I charge a lot of money for private one-on-one stuff.
Yeah.
I pretty much give away the same things. It's just not one-on-one.
Not yet.
In the group setting, just because I don't care. I just want to help everybody. Everybody needs to know this stuff. It's the people that'll benefit, though, are the ones that will implement. Don't make it a big deal. Take a little baby step. Get that in place. Get some results. If it works for you, then add the next thing. If it doesn't work, throw it out. Then go to the next thing. That works, keep it. Go to the next thing, keep it. Go to the next thing, throw it out. You just keep this process. I've been doing this for 13 years.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, I think we've come to the end of our conversation, Tim. Thank you so much for this discussion and sharing your insights and your story. It's been a great conversation. I've definitely learned a lot, especially about the importance of having a chemical-free lifestyle. To our listeners, if you want to learn more about chemical-free body and explore their range of products, visit their website at chemicalfreebody.com. And as Tim said, there are a bunch of resources there, a lot of free stuff. So definitely check it out. And don't forget to subscribe to Holistic Health Habits if you enjoyed this episode, and also give us a rating and review so that more people can find us. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Surani Fernando. Take care and stay healthy.